Duty marriage ends in blood. The human rises as a battle deity Kale stepped off the shuttle onto the landing platform of Virlia, a planet that glittered under twin suns. The air was sharp and metallic, carrying a smell that reminded him vaguely of burning iron. His boots clicked on the polished surface, echoing in the vast chamber. He had traveled across hundreds of light years to stand here, in the heart of an alien civilization that would never truly accept a human as their equal. His mission was simple in theory: participate in a duty marriage with Lady Scifi of the Iron Talon clan. The marriage was political, meant to cement an alliance between his human delegation and the Virlians. In reality, Kale knew the marriage was a trap. Duty marriages often were in this galaxy, tools for power, dominance, and manipulation. Humans were seen as fragile and expendable, and Kale was fully aware that the Virlians would watch him closely, searching for weaknesses to exploit. The hall stretched upward like a cathedral of steel. Towering banners bearing the sigil of the Iron Talon, a clenched claw wrapped around a lightning bolt, hung from the ceiling. Warriors lined the walls, their armor reflecting light in sharp, almost blinding patterns. They were tall, muscular, and intimidating, with cybernetic enhancements that gave them a mechanical edge. Each movement, each glance, carried the weight of discipline, and Kale felt the weight pressing on him. A voice cut through the chamber, formal and cold. The human envoy arrives. It was Lady Scifi, standing on the dais with her posture perfect and her expression unreadable. She was striking, with eyes like molten gold and hair the color of dark iron. She did not smile. She did not step forward. She simply watched, as though weighing his soul. Kale swallowed and stepped forward, bowing respectfully, though the Virlians might interpret it as weakness. "I am Kale of Earth," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "I come in peace and loyalty." Scifi inclined her head slightly. "Peace is fragile," she said. "Loyalty is earned. You are not yet proven." The ceremony that followed was meticulous, a display of ritual that Kale barely understood. Every gesture had meaning. Every movement was a statement of status, dominance, or submission. Kale focused on observing, on remembering each detail. Mistakes could be fatal. The human mind, adaptable and flexible, had to outthink the alien rigidity. As the final rites concluded, the chamber doors suddenly slammed open. Warriors fell into defensive stances, weapons raised, as a figure darted into the hall. It was one of Scifi's kin, a cousin long considered loyal, but betrayal hung in the air like a storm cloud. In the next moments, chaos erupted. Sparks flew as energy blades clashed. Screams of pain and shouts of alarm filled the chamber. Kale dove behind a statue for cover, his heart pounding. Humans were not built for the raw strength of Virlians in combat, but Kale had something they did not: unpredictability. While others relied on strength and training alone, Kale relied on observation, on improvisation. He grabbed a fallen energy staff from the floor and held it ready, eyes darting between attackers. One of the traitors lunged at him, their cybernetic arm glinting under the sun. Kale sidestepped, using momentum to shove the attacker into a marble column. Sparks erupted as metal met stone. He ran across the hall, ducking behind pillars, using angles the Virlians never considered. Humans had long been underestimated for their physical limitations, but Kale's strength lay in his mind, in the ability to react, adapt, and survive. Scifi moved with lethal precision, her golden eyes scanning the room. Kale watched her from a distance, recognizing that while they were supposed to be bound by marriage, they were now allies against a common threat. The traitor had killed her father, the clan leader, and in that moment survival became paramount. Kale's presence, though human and weak by Virlian standards, was an unexpected variable. The traitors hesitated, unsure if he was just a liability or a hidden weapon. The first wave of attackers fell back, their formations broken by Kale's ingenuity. He ducked behind a fallen statue, catching his breath, while Scifi's warriors moved with renewed purpose. The hall was littered with fallen banners and shattered statues. Smoke curled from scorched floors, and the scent of burning circuitry mixed with the iron-rich air. Kale realized that surviving this initial assault would not be enough. The traitors were skilled, and their plan was not yet finished. Each movement had to be calculated, each decision could mean life or death. He remembered Earth's old military tactics, centuries of human conflict distilled into instinct. Use cover, create unpredictability, exploit the enemy's expectations. Humans thrived where predictability failed, and Kale was about to prove it. He spotted an opening near a cluster of pillars. The traders were focused on Scifi, believing her attack would be the decisive one. Kale rolled forward, striking one of the attackers from behind with a blunt end of his staff. The impact sent the alien staggering. Using their momentary confusion, he disarmed another, his movements fluid despite his lack of enhanced strength. Scifi noticed his effectiveness. Her eyes narrowed, but it was not anger. There was respect there, faint but unmistakable. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous in ways the Virelians seldom accounted for. Even a single human could alter the balance of a battle if they thought differently. Kale was proving that theory. The battle intensified as more traders poured in, trying to overwhelm the small number of loyalists defending the dais. Kale moved strategically, guiding Scifi's warriors into flanking positions, creating traps from overturned furniture and broken columns. His mind raced, calculating angles, momentum, and timing with the precision of a seasoned tactician, though he had never fought a war like this. Finally, he reached the core of the hall where the lead traitor, Scifi's treacherous cousin, was attempting to escape. Kale blocked the path, staff in hand, and stared the alien down. "You will not leave here alive," he said, voice steady. There was no bravado, only certainty. The cousin laughed, raising a plasma blade. Kale felt the fear, but he let it sharpen his senses. When the first strike came, Kale dodged and rolled, striking the alien with the staff's blunt end. Sparks flew as metal met metal. The cousin staggered, underestimating the human's agility and instinct. Kale's mind moved faster than the weapon, faster than the strength it carried. With a final, decisive movement, Kale disarmed the traitor, sending the blade skittering across the floor. He pressed the tip of his staff to the alien's chest. "You underestimate humans," Kale said. "And that is your mistake." Scifi arrived at his side, her golden eyes burning with a mixture of anger and approval. "You fight like one of us now," she said softly, almost as if it were a warning and a compliment at the same time. Kale only nodded. Words were meaningless in this moment. Survival and action were what mattered. The remaining traitors fled, leaving the hall in silence. Smoke curled from scorched floors and shattered furniture. The air was thick with the metallic tang of blood. Kale breathed heavily, his muscles screaming in pain, but adrenaline sharpened his mind. He had survived. Against impossible odds, he had survived. And in doing so, he had made the first step toward becoming something more than a human envoy. A survivor, a warrior, a spark of something the Virelians had never seen before. As Scifi moved to check on her clan members, Kale took a moment to observe the battlefield. Bodies lay scattered, weapons glinting in the harsh sunlight. This was not victory, it was survival. And survival in a world like Virelia meant more than strength. It meant cunning, adaptability, and a willingness to rise when others expected you to fall. Kale understood in that moment that this duty marriage was more than a political maneuver. It was a test, not just of loyalty, but of human potential. Humans had always been underestimated, seen as fragile, weak, or insignificant. Yet here he stood, a single human who had altered the course of a battle through intellect, courage, and instinct. The realization stirred something deep within him, a spark of purpose. If survival required cunning, if duty demanded bravery, then perhaps humanity had a place in this galaxy after all. Perhaps humans were not meant to simply exist under alien rule. Perhaps they were meant to rise. Scifi approached, her face streaked with grime and sweat, but her posture unwavering. She looked at Kale with something that was not quite trust, but not suspicion either. "You have survived," she said. "That is more than most could claim." Kale nodded, feeling the weight of both the praise and the responsibility. "I will do more than survive," he said quietly. "I will ensure that those who threaten your clan or my people will regret it." The golden eyes of the Virelian warrior studied him for a long moment. Then, without another word, she turned toward the remaining clan members, organizing defenses and checking the wounded. Kale followed, knowing that the coming days would be far more dangerous than a single attack. The traitor's actions had revealed only a fraction of the dangers he would face. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the hall, Kale allowed himself a small, private moment of reflection. This planet, these people, the political marriage, it was all a crucible. And human beings, though often underestimated, had a way of thriving in crucibles. He had survived the first trial, but the path ahead promised fire, blood, and challenges that would test every limit of his body, mind, and spirit. Kale clenched his fists. He would rise. Not as a pawn, not as a human to be dismissed. He would rise as a force the galaxy could not ignore. And in that rising, he would prove the truth of humanity. Fragile, yes, but capable of greatness beyond imagination. A spark of divinity hidden in flesh and bone, ready to ignite when the time came. The hall fell silent, but the echoes of the first bloodshed would resonate far beyond Vyrlia. Kale understood that this was only the beginning. The human had entered the battlefield, and the galaxy would soon take notice. The day after the attack, Kale awoke to the metallic scent of the Iron Talon stronghold. The hallways were quiet but tense. Servants moved with careful precision, whispering to one another as they passed. Kale had survived the first deadly trial, but survival did not mean safety. In Vyrlia, nothing came without consequence. Every moment carried risk, every shadow could hide betrayal. He rose from the simple bed assigned to him, stretching muscles still sore from the previous day's battle. Even his human body, weaker than the cybernetic-enhanced Vyrlians, had endured. That endurance, Kale realized, was only the beginning. If he was to survive and thrive, he needed more than instinct. He needed skill, training, and mastery over both mind and body. Scifi appeared at the doorway, her golden eyes sharp but not hostile. She wore armor lighter than the battlefield gear, yet it hinted at strength and readiness. "Kale," she said, her voice low, "you have survived more than most of my warriors could, but surviving alone will not be enough. The traitors will return and others will test you. You must learn to fight like us and beyond us." Kale nodded. "I am ready to learn. I must for your people and mine." She studied him, her expression unreadable. "Then follow me. Training begins now." The training grounds were vast, an open expanse filled with practice dummies, obstacle courses, and combat arenas. Vyrlian warriors moved through drills with mechanical precision, their cybernetic enhancements making their strikes faster, stronger, and more deadly than Kale could imagine. Kale's first lessons were simple yet brutal. He was weaker than the Vyrlians, his muscles smaller, his endurance shorter, his reflexes slower. But humans had one advantage they seldom recognized: adaptability. Kale learned to use the terrain, to anticipate attacks, to exploit patterns. Where a Vyrlian relied on raw strength, Kale relied on calculation, timing, and instinct honed over centuries of human warfare techniques. Scifi trained alongside him. At first, she corrected his every mistake with sharp, precise movements, showing how a single misstep could cost him his life. Kale listened, observed, and learned. Slowly, he began to anticipate her strikes, moving with a speed that surprised even her. "You are not like other humans," she said after he blocked a particularly tricky combination of attacks. "You think differently. Most would panic, but you adapt." Kale knew it was true. Humans had survived on Earth for thousands of years by facing dangers larger, faster, and stronger than themselves. Predators, rival tribes, disease, famine. The human race had thrived against impossible odds. Kale felt that instinct now, rising from deep within, sharpening his senses, heightening his reflexes. But training was only the beginning. The traitor faction had not vanished. They lurked in the shadows, plotting, observing, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Kale knew their return was inevitable, and when they came, he would need more than skill. He would need power. Days passed. Kale's body grew stronger, his movements more precise. He combined human tactics with Vyrlian techniques, improvising in ways that left even Scifi momentarily speechless. He learned to fight with alien weapons, from plasma swords to energy rifles, and he discovered that his human mind could adapt to their technology faster than most Vyrlians. One evening, after hours of grueling training, Kale sat alone in the practice arena, catching his breath. The twin suns of Vyrlia were setting, casting long shadows across the ground. He closed his eyes, reflecting on what he had learned. He was stronger than yesterday, yes, but the training only revealed one truth. To survive in this galaxy, humans could not rely on strength alone. They needed to awaken something deeper, something the Vyrlians had never seen. Kale had heard legends of humans with extraordinary potential, hidden until extreme danger unlocked it. He wondered if that potential was within him. The memory of the hall battle, the way he had moved instinctively to survive, gave him hope. There was something there, waiting to be awakened. The quiet of the evening was broken by a sudden, sharp alarm. Kale's senses snapped to attention. He raced to the command center with Scifi, finding the room in chaos. The traitor faction had struck again. A coordinated attack was underway, not just against the stronghold, but against key strategic locations across the city. Kale felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment to test his training, to prove that a human could stand against Virelia's deadliest warriors. He followed Scifi and her elite guards to the front lines, moving quickly through corridors and over rooftops, his mind analyzing every possible tactical advantage. The first wave of traitors arrived, a group of 5 enhanced warriors armed with energy blades and plasma rifles. They moved with lethal precision, expecting Kale to flee or falter. Instead, he met them head-on. Using his environment, he rolled behind pillars, ducked under swinging energy blades, and struck at weak points the Virelians rarely considered vulnerable. Scifi watched, amazed. Kale's movements were unorthodox, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective. He did not rely on raw strength, but on speed, angles, and cunning. A single human, weak by Virelian standards, could create chaos on the battlefield simply by being impossible to predict. The battle intensified. More traitors poured in, and Kale found himself in the center of the fight. His human reflexes, honed by instinct and intellect, allowed him to survive attacks that would have killed others. He realized that his body was beginning to change, muscles responding faster, reflexes sharper, and his senses alert to threats before they fully materialized. As he fought, Kale felt something stirring within, a resonance, a strange energy coursing through him. It was subtle at first, a warmth in his chest, a heightened awareness. He did not understand it, but he sensed that it was a power humans rarely experienced, a gift hidden until danger demanded its emergence. One of the traitors, a massive warrior with cybernetic arms, charged at him. Kale dodged effortlessly, moving in ways he had never thought possible. He struck back, his fists finding gaps in the armor that others would have ignored. The warrior fell, stunned, and Kale felt the resonance surge stronger. Scifi noticed the change. She moved closer, her golden eyes wide with astonishment. "Kale, you are awakening something," she said, her voice barely audible over the clash of battle. "Something beyond human." Kale did not respond. He was focused on survival, on protecting those around him, and on harnessing the strange power that seemed to flow through him. It was as if every instinct, every tactic, every memory of human ingenuity combined into a single, unstoppable force. By the time the traitor faction retreated, the battlefield was littered with debris and unconscious warriors. Kale stood in the center, breathing heavily, his body alive with energy. He had survived again, but this time he knew he had become something more. Humans had always adapted, always found a way to survive, and now Kale realized they could surpass what even the Virelians believed possible. Scifi approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have changed," she said softly. "Whatever you are becoming, it is extraordinary." Kale nodded, feeling the truth of her words. This was only the beginning. The traitor faction was not finished. The galaxy held greater threats, rival clans, and enemies far more dangerous than these mere rebels. But Kale now understood that he was not just a human envoy. He was a warrior, a strategist, and perhaps something more. That night, Kale sat atop the stronghold walls, looking out over the city of Virelia. Fires burned in the distance, remnants of the day's chaos. He thought of Earth, of the fragile humans who had survived wars, plagues, and countless dangers with nothing but ingenuity and courage. He realized that the same spark lived within him. If humans could awaken this power, this resonance, then perhaps they could rise to challenges that no other species could face. Kale clenched his fists, feeling the energy flowing through him. He would continue to train, to grow stronger, and to prepare for the trials that lay ahead. The first attack had been a warning. The traitors would not rest. Rival clans would not forgive weakness. And the galaxy itself would soon take notice of a human who refused to be dismissed, underestimated, or defeated. Kale rose from the wall, ready to face whatever came next. He would survive. He would fight. And one day, he would prove that humanity, though fragile, could rise to godlike heights when pushed to the edge. Kale had changed. The resonance he had felt during the previous battle no longer whispered. It roared within him, a river of energy that made his muscles respond faster, his mind calculate with precision, and his senses detect movement before it happened. The humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile creatures. But Kale was beginning to understand that human adaptability could evolve into something far greater, a force that even the Viorlians could not predict. The training grounds, once a place of measured drills, now felt like a proving arena. Kale moved through the exercises with fluid grace, dodging attacks, parrying energy blades, and striking in ways that were not learned but instinctive. Scifi watched him, her eyes narrowing, a mixture of awe and caution in her gaze. "You are no longer a human in the usual sense," she said quietly. "You are something beyond, but you must control it. Power without control destroys as easily as it protects." Kale nodded, though control was something he had not yet fully mastered. The resonance felt alive, guiding him, giving him abilities he did not fully understand. He could sense the presence of others before they moved, read the flow of battle, and anticipate attacks with unnerving accuracy. He was stronger, faster, and sharper than any human should be. And the truth struck him. The galaxy had never seen a human like him. News of his abilities spread quickly within the Iron Talon clan. Whispers of a human warrior with the strength of a god reached every corner of the stronghold. Some warriors were inspired, others wary, but all were forced to acknowledge that Kale was no longer just an envoy. He was a weapon, and weapons had power beyond diplomacy. It was during one evening patrol that Kale first confronted the real danger beyond the traitors. Reports had come in of a rival interstellar clan, the Crimson Fang, moving closer to Viorlia's borders. They were known for ruthlessness, for striking without warning, and for destroying entire planets to send messages to their enemies. Kale felt the weight of this threat. Survival against traitors was one thing, survival against a fully armed and organized enemy clan was another. Scifi stood beside him as they observed the distant movement of enemy ships. "They will come," she said, her voice steady but tense. "And when they do, this city and perhaps your people will be in grave danger." Kale's mind raced. Survival was no longer enough. Strategy, foresight, and overwhelming force would be necessary. He could feel the resonance within him responding, an instinctive pull toward preparation, calculation, and leadership. Humans had a unique gift. They could imagine possibilities the aliens never considered. Kale would use that gift to change the battlefield itself. The Crimson Fang attacked sooner than expected. Their ships blotted out the sky, their weapons firing plasma streaks that struck the city walls. Alarms blared and chaos erupted in the streets. The Iron Talon warriors rushed to defend key points, but Kale understood that brute force alone would not win this battle. He moved through the chaos, his body faster than any Viorlian could match, guiding soldiers, setting traps, and exploiting weaknesses that others would have missed. He could feel the resonance surging stronger with each engagement. He moved like a shadow, striking at the enemy with precision, disappearing before they could counterattack. Humans had always survived by thinking creatively, and Kale's mind was a weapon now. Every movement was deliberate, every strike calculated, every decision informed by instinct and intellect combined. Scifi fought alongside him, her confidence in him growing with each success. "Kale," she shouted over the chaos, "the enemy commander is here. If you can take him down, the rest will falter." Kale's eyes scanned the battlefield. The enemy commander was massive, adorned with armor and weapons unlike any the Viorlians used. His presence radiated authority, and every warrior around him followed his movements with precision. Kale did not hesitate. He moved forward, weaving through the battlefield, his steps silent but deadly. When he reached the commander, Kale struck with the speed of thought. The resonance guided him, predicting the enemy's moves before they occurred. The commander swung a massive energy blade, but Kale dodged effortlessly, landing blows at precise points that disrupted the armor and forced the alien to stagger. The resonance heightened every sense, every reaction, and Kale began to realize that his human limits had expanded. The battle raged on around them. Viorlian warriors fought valiantly, but the human at their center was unmatched in unpredictability. He did not rely on strength alone. He used timing, angles, and ingenuity, turning the battlefield into a trap the enemy could not navigate. The commander struggled to adapt, and for the first time the alien experienced fear, the fear of a human who refused to be ordinary. Kale struck with a decisive blow, knocking the commander to the ground. Silence fell for a moment as both sides stared. The human, weak and underestimated, had defeated a master of war. The resonance surged through Kale, and he felt the power more clearly than ever. Humans had always adapted. Now he had evolved beyond mere adaptation. He was something new, something the galaxy had never witnessed. Scifi approached him, her golden eyes wide with amazement. "You are a force beyond comprehension," she said softly. "The humans, you are becoming legends." Kale felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. This power was not just for survival. It was a tool to protect those who could not defend themselves, to challenge those who underestimated humans, and to change the course of history. The battle was not just physical, it was symbolic. Humans were no longer weak, no longer insignificant. As the Crimson Fang forces retreated, leaving behind chaos and destruction, Kale surveyed the battlefield. The Iron Talon clan had survived, thanks to his abilities, his strategies, and the respect he had earned from the warriors. But the cost was high. Buildings were destroyed, civilians injured, and the city's infrastructure damaged. Victory had a price, and Kale understood that every choice he made would carry consequences. That night, Kale stood atop the highest tower, looking at the stars above Vierlia. The twin suns had set, leaving a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. He felt the resonance within him pulse like a heartbeat. Humans had always been underestimated, but he was living proof that their potential was limitless. He remembered Earth, his home, the planet that had produced countless generations of humans who had survived disasters, wars, and hardships. He realized that the human spirit was not just about survival, it was about rising above, about achieving greatness in the face of impossible odds. And now he was beginning to rise. Scifi joined him silently. She did not speak, only stood beside him, watching the distant stars. Finally, she said, "The clans will speak of you for generations. The humans, they will no longer be ignored. But power like yours draws attention. Be careful, Kale. There are those who will see you as a threat to the balance of the galaxy." Kale nodded. He understood the warning. With great power came great danger. Enemies would rise, jealous and fearful. But he also understood something deeper. Humans were not meant to bow, to be subjugated, or to hide. They were meant to rise, to challenge, and to endure. And Kale had become the spark that would ignite that rise. In the following days, Kale began to formalize his strategies, training the Iron Talon warriors not just to fight, but to think differently. He taught them to anticipate, to adapt, to use the terrain and technology in ways the enemy could not predict. Humans had always relied on ingenuity, and now Kale was sharing that ingenuity with those who had once doubted him. Meanwhile, intelligence reports confirmed that the Crimson Fang were regrouping, preparing for a larger assault. Kale felt the resonance respond again, a warning and a preparation. He was ready, and the warriors around him could sense the change. A human who had survived impossible odds, who had defeated a master commander, who moved with godlike precision. It was enough to inspire loyalty, fear, and awe. One evening, during a quiet moment of reflection, Kale meditated on the resonance within him. He realized it was more than physical power. It was awareness, intuition, and strategy combined into a single, flowing energy. It enhanced not just strength and speed, but decision-making, perception, and resilience. He felt his mind expanding, understanding patterns and possibilities with clarity no human or alien had ever achieved. Kale rose from meditation with a new clarity. Humans had always been underestimated, but he was proof that their limits were only perceived, not real. And as he trained, fought, and led, he would awaken more of this potential, not just in himself, but in humanity as a whole. The galaxy had seen a human fight, adapt, and survive. Soon, it would see a human rise as something far more powerful, a being capable of reshaping entire civilizations. Kale's journey was only beginning, but already the seeds of legend had been sown. The first traitors had fallen, the Crimson Fang had been repelled, and the Iron Talon warriors had witnessed what a human could do when pushed to the edge. Kale had proven that survival was not enough. Humans could rise, and when they did, they could become something that even the gods of the stars would respect or fear. As he looked toward the horizon, Kale's mind was already moving forward. The battles ahead would be harder, the enemies stronger, but he had discovered the truth of human potential. And he would rise not just as a warrior, but as a force that could challenge the galaxy itself. The dawn of Vierlia was filled with tension. The twin suns cast sharp light over the city, highlighting the scars left by the last battle. Buildings were still damaged, fires smoldered, and the streets bore the marks of conflict. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was a renewed sense of purpose. Kale had proven that a single human could change the course of a battle, and now the entire Iron Talon clan looked to him for guidance. Reports came quickly. The Crimson Fang were regrouping, calling upon allied forces from neighboring systems. Their numbers would be overwhelming, and their strategy far more calculated than before. Kale studied the reports, his mind already racing with possibilities. Survival was no longer the priority, victory was. And victory required more than courage. It required intelligence, innovation, and an understanding of the enemy that few could match. Scifi stood beside him, her golden eyes unwavering. They are stronger this time. Their ships, their warriors, everything they bring will be designed to crush us. Kale nodded, his focus absolute. Then we will make them fail. We will turn their strength into weakness. He called together the elite warriors of the clan, outlining a strategy that seemed almost reckless at first. Instead of meeting the enemy in open battle, Kale proposed a combination of ambushes, diversion tactics, and human ingenuity applied to alien technology. He taught the warriors to move unpredictably, to exploit terrain, and to trust instincts rather than rigid formations. Humans had survived through adaptability, and Kale intended to show the Virelians how that adaptability could become an unstoppable weapon. The city became a training ground, with Kale leading drills, simulations, and mock battles. Even Scifi was surprised by the speed at which he taught concepts that Virelians spent years learning. He did not rely on brute strength, for humans were weaker. He relied on creativity, speed of thought, and intuition. And the resonance within him continued to grow, guiding his decisions and enhancing his reflexes. Finally, the enemy arrived. The Crimson Fang's fleet darkened the sky, their ships sleek and menacing. Their ground forces landed in precision, each warrior enhanced, each weapon deadly. Virelian defenders prepared, but their fear was clear. They had heard the stories of Kale, but the reality of his abilities was something else entirely. Kale led the first wave. He moved like a shadow, striking where the enemy was weakest, disrupting formations with tactics that seemed chaotic but were meticulously calculated. Human unpredictability became a weapon. While the enemy expected rigid Virelian-style maneuvers, Kale introduced randomness, feints, and sudden strikes that left them off balance. Scifi followed closely, coordinating her forces with Kale's guidance. She had never seen strategy executed with such precision, yet with a flow that seemed almost instinctual. The resonance within Kale allowed him to perceive not just the battlefield, but patterns of movement, anticipating attacks and countering before the enemy could react. The battle reached its climax at the floating city of Velkara, a massive, technologically advanced hub suspended above Virelia. The Crimson Fang commander, a towering figure with psychic enhancements and a fleet of elite warriors, confronted Kale directly. The two forces collided with immense energy, the ground shaking as weapons clashed and explosions lit the sky. Kale moved with speed no human should have possessed, dodging psychic strikes and energy blasts, striking at weak points in the enemy's armor with precision. Every movement was guided by the resonance, which now seemed almost sentient, anticipating the enemy's next move. He was no longer just a human, he was a weapon, a force of nature, a spark of something divine. The commander attacked with fury, his psychic energy pushing Kale back. Yet Kale adapted, using the environment, reflecting energy strikes off metal surfaces and directing his warriors in a symphony of destruction. His strategies unfolded in real time, improvising in ways that no Virelian or enemy could predict. Scifi was in awe. "Kale," she shouted over the roar of battle, "their commander is too strong. You must strike decisively or we will lose everything." Kale nodded, understanding the urgency. He focused, allowing the resonance to guide him fully. Every step, every strike, every motion became perfect. He moved faster than thought, striking at the enemy commander with a combination of precision attacks and human ingenuity. The commander staggered, unable to predict the unconventional methods Kale employed. The battle shifted. The enemy forces, seeing their leader falter, began to lose cohesion. Kale directed ambushes, trap placements, and counterattacks that turned their numbers against them. The city itself became a weapon under his guidance, corridors, bridges, and platforms utilized to maximize advantage. Human creativity reshaped the battlefield. Finally, Kale faced the enemy commander in close combat. Blows clashed, sparks flew, and psychic energy collided with human determination. Kale felt the resonance surge, guiding his movements beyond instinct, beyond reaction, into a flow of pure awareness. Every strike was calculated, every movement precise, and the commander, despite his enhancements, could not match the unpredictability and ingenuity of Kale. With a decisive maneuver, Kale disarmed the commander and struck him down, ending the battle in a way no one had anticipated. The remaining forces of the Crimson Fang, leaderless and confused, retreated. Velkara had been defended, and the Iron Talon clan had survived against overwhelming odds. The aftermath was devastating but victorious. Buildings lay in ruin, fires burned in multiple sectors, and the casualties were high. Yet the warriors of the Iron Talon clan looked at Kale with reverence. He had turned the tide of the battle, demonstrating that a single human, guided by intellect, adaptability, and latent resonance, could challenge an entire alien fleet. Kale walked among his people, observing their reactions. Some were fearful, others inspired, but all were forced to acknowledge the truth. Humans were not weak. They were capable of greatness beyond expectation. He had proven it in action, and now their respect was undeniable. Scifi approached him, her expression softening. "You are more than I imagined, Kale. You have changed everything. The clans will speak of you for generations." Kale did not smile. He understood the cost of power. "We survived, but at a price. I will not let this victory blind us to the dangers ahead. There are greater threats than the Crimson Fang. I must prepare." Her eyes met his. "And you will. You are no longer just a human envoy. You are a force of this galaxy, a warrior, a battle deity." The title struck Kale in a strange way. He had not sought power or recognition. He had sought survival, adaptation, and the protection of those who could not protect themselves. Yet through his actions, he had become a symbol, a living proof of humanity's potential. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed, and oppressed, but now Kale was demonstrating their ability to rise above any challenge. In the days following the battle, Kale worked tirelessly to fortify the city. He trained warriors, coordinated defenses, and developed strategies that combined human adaptability with Virelian technology. The resonance within him continued to grow, enhancing his mind and body in ways that no ordinary human or alien could comprehend. The story of the battle spread across the galaxy. Humans were no longer merely curiosities or weaklings. They were capable of rising, of challenging the strongest clans, and of surviving against impossible odds. Kale had become a legend, a living symbol of what humans could achieve when pushed to their limits. Yet Kale knew that legend was not enough. The galaxy was vast, and the threats were many. Rival clans would see him as a challenge, as a threat to the balance of power. He had become a target, and every action he took would attract attention, both friend and foe. He stood atop Velkara's highest platform, looking out over the city and the stars beyond. The twin suns set, casting long shadows and painting the sky in colors that humans had never seen. Kale felt the resonance within him, the energy that had guided his survival, growth, and victory. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, a heartbeat that connected him to every human who had ever struggled, fought, and risen against impossible odds. Scifi joined him silently, her presence steady and reassuring. "The galaxy will test you, Kale, but you have proven something today." "Humans are not to be dismissed," Kale nodded. "I know, and I will continue to prove it, not for power, not for glory, but because humanity has the potential to rise beyond limits. We will survive, we will fight, and we will change the galaxy." Her eyes softened. "And you will lead the way." Kale felt the weight of that responsibility. Leadership was more than strategy. It was vision, courage, and the ability to inspire others. Humans had survived for millennia because they could adapt, innovate, and endure. Now Kale would show the galaxy that humans could rise not just to survive, but to dominate, to protect, and to inspire awe. As night fell over Virelia, the city lay in quiet anticipation. The warriors trained, rebuilt, and prepared, their confidence bolstered by the human who had defied every expectation. Kale's presence was more than inspiration. It was proof of a truth that the galaxy had long ignored. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. And Kale, the human who had entered a duty marriage as a pawn, was no longer just a human. He was a warrior, a strategist, and a rising deity of battle whose name would echo across the stars. The galaxy would soon know the full extent of his power, but for now, Kale allowed himself a moment of reflection. He had fought, survived, and transformed. The next battles would be harder, the enemies stronger, but he was ready. Humans had always endured, and now he would show that they could rise to godlike heights when pushed to the edge. The aftermath of the great battle left Vyrlia scarred but alive. The Crimson Fang, defeated and shattered, had retreated beyond the border of the system, nursing their losses and reconsidering the danger a human posed. Kale walked through the streets of the rebuilt sections of the city, observing the people who had fought, survived, and now looked to him with respect and awe. He had become more than a warrior. He had become a symbol, a living proof of humanity's hidden potential. Scifi walked beside him, her golden eyes reflecting both pride and concern. "The clans will speak of you for generations," she said. "Your name will be remembered, Kale. You have changed Vyrlia and perhaps the galaxy forever." Kale nodded quietly. "I did what was necessary," he said. "But this is only the beginning. The galaxy is still full of dangers. Rival clans, alien species, and threats beyond imagination. They will come, and humanity must be ready." The city council, composed of leaders from every surviving clan, gathered to discuss the future. Kale was invited not just as an envoy, but as a strategist, a warrior, and a leader. He spoke calmly, his mind clear from the resonance that had grown within him, guiding his thoughts and decisions. He outlined a plan to unite the clans, to strengthen defenses, and to prepare for threats that might come from anywhere in the galaxy. His words were met with a mixture of awe and skepticism. Some leaders feared his power, others envied it, but all recognized the truth. Kale was unlike any being they had ever seen. His strategies were precise, his vision clear, and his understanding of both human and alien capabilities far beyond normal comprehension. Scifi remained by his side throughout the council. She had fought alongside him, seen his abilities firsthand, and now trusted him completely. Her presence reminded everyone that Kale's power was not just his own. It was a force that could unite humans and Vyrlians alike. Kale's influence grew quickly. Under his guidance, the Iron Talon clan rebuilt stronger and smarter. Human warriors were integrated into the defense forces, trained not only in conventional combat, but in the tactics and adaptability that had made Kale legendary. Technology was improved, structures fortified, and plans laid for future threats. Humanity was no longer a minor player. They were becoming a force capable of shaping the galaxy's future. But Kale knew that leadership was more than strategy. It was also about presence, about inspiring others to believe in themselves. He moved among the people, sharing lessons, demonstrating his abilities, and showing that humans were not fragile, not weak, and not to be underestimated. The resonance within him continued to guide his actions, enhancing his mind, body, and perception. One day, intelligence reports arrived of a new threat. A coalition of smaller clans, seeking to take advantage of Vyrlia's weakened state, had formed. They intended to strike while the city rebuilt, believing the humans and their allies to be vulnerable. Kale studied the reports, analyzing the enemy's strengths, weaknesses, and patterns. This time, he did not merely react, he anticipated. He devised a counter-strategy that combined human ingenuity with Vyrlian technology. He divided his forces, creating decoys, ambush points, and traps designed to exploit the enemy's overconfidence. The coalition struck, expecting an easy conquest, only to find themselves ensnared by tactics they could not predict. Kale moved through the battlefield like a shadow, striking precisely, directing forces with uncanny foresight, and inspiring warriors to act beyond their limits. Humans, once underestimated, now demonstrated their adaptability and cunning in ways that left even seasoned Vyrlian commanders astonished. The battle was brutal, but Kale's forces prevailed. The coalition was defeated and their leaders captured. Victory was not without cost. Many had fallen, and the city bore scars of battle once more. But the humans under Kale's leadership had proven that even when outnumbered, they could rise, adapt, and triumph. Scifi approached Kale after the battle, her armor scorched and her expression weary but proud. "You are no longer just a human, Kale. You are a symbol. The clans will follow you, the galaxy will remember you, and your people will rise because of you." Kale looked out over the battlefield, his chest still pulsing with the resonance that had guided him through every conflict. He understood that his journey was far from over. Humans were capable of greatness, but the galaxy was vast, filled with unknown dangers. Every victory, every lesson was preparation for challenges yet to come. He felt a quiet pride, not arrogance but resolve. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. They had survived, adapted, and evolved under pressures that would have destroyed other species. Now, guided by the resonance within him, Kale could help humanity rise to a place among the stars where their potential would be recognized and feared. In the following weeks, Kale worked to unify the clans under a council where humans and Virelians held equal influence. He trained human soldiers, sharing strategies and techniques that leveraged their adaptability. Scifi became his closest ally, coordinating military operations and diplomacy alongside him. The duty marriage that had begun as a political arrangement evolved into a partnership built on mutual respect, trust, and shared purpose. Kale often reflected on how far he had come, from a fragile human envoy, underestimated and vulnerable, to a battle-hardened warrior whose name carried weight across the galaxy. His rise was not just personal, it was symbolic. Humans were capable of achieving greatness beyond expectation, and Kale had shown that possibility through action, courage, and strategy. Yet even as he strengthened his people, Kale remained vigilant. Rumors persisted of distant civilizations observing humanity's rise, curious, cautious, and perhaps threatened. He knew that recognition often brought envy, and envy often brought conflict. But he also knew that humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons or numbers, but in ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability. One evening, as Kale stood on the observation deck overlooking Virelia, he felt a deep sense of connection to every human who had ever struggled to survive. The resonance within him pulsed steadily, a reminder of the latent power hidden in humanity's spirit. He understood that his journey, though monumental, was only part of a larger story. Humans, as a species, were capable of rising beyond what any alien had imagined, and he would guide them. Scifi joined him silently, her presence grounding and steady. She watched the distant stars and said, "Your people will follow you, Kale. They will rise and they will change the galaxy." Kale nodded. "Yes. But we rise not for power, not for conquest, but for survival, for honor, and for the recognition that humans are more than anyone believed. We rise because we must, and because we can." In the days that followed, Kale continued to lead, training, strategizing, and preparing for future challenges. His legend grew, not through boast or arrogance, but through action, leadership, and undeniable skill. Humans were no longer minor players in the galaxy. They were rising stars, capable of challenging, surviving, and thriving where others had failed. The final test came when remnants of the Crimson Fang, seeking revenge, attempted a coordinated strike on multiple Virelian colonies. Kale anticipated their movements, directing forces to intercept and neutralize threats before they could gain a foothold. His presence on the battlefield inspired fear in enemies and confidence in allies. With precise strikes, innovative tactics, and human ingenuity applied to alien technology, he defeated the remnants decisively. After the battle, Kale stood once more on the highest tower of the Iron Talon stronghold. The sun rose, casting golden light across the city and the surrounding landscape. He had faced impossible odds, survived, and risen not just as a warrior, but as a symbol of human potential. Scifi joined him, her eyes reflecting the light and the weight of their shared experiences. "The galaxy will remember you," she said, "and humanity will follow your example. You have proven what we all feared and hoped, that humans can rise above limits." Kale looked toward the horizon, feeling the resonance pulsing through him, a steady, powerful reminder of the potential within all humans. "We will rise," he said softly, "not as pawns, not as weaklings, but as a force that the galaxy cannot ignore. Our people will thrive, our potential will be recognized, and we will endure." In that moment, Kale understood the full weight of his journey. The duty marriage that had begun as a political arrangement, the battles, the betrayals, the awakening of his latent power, all had led to this. Humanity was no longer a minor player. Under Kale's guidance, humans would rise as warriors, strategists, and visionaries, capable of challenging the strongest forces in the galaxy. And Kale, once a fragile human envoy, now a battle-hardened leader and symbol of power, would ensure that rise. He had become more than human, more than warrior. He had become a living proof of humanity's boundless potential, a battle deity whose name would echo across the stars for generations to come. The stars above Violia seemed brighter than ever, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy, the challenges yet to come, and the promise of human greatness. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the resonance, the heartbeat of humanity within him, and knew this was only the beginning. Humans had survived, adapted, and now, under Kale's leadership, they would rise to heights no one had imagined. The galaxy would remember.